Welcome everybody to today's webinar. This is Kris Murray, President and Founder of Childcare Marketing Solutions. And today's topic is secrets and myths about price, something that many of you struggle with. We're going to talk about how to raise your rates, how to improve your cash flow, and how to attract more high-paying clients. This webinar will run for about an hour and 15 minutes, so hopefully you can stay on with us for the entire thing. And I'm thrilled to be providing this to you in partnership with my friends at Procare Software. Thank you so much, Procare. And we have a couple folks on the line from Procare who are going to join us later in the webinar. And so let's go ahead and just get started. What we're going to talk about today. I want to lay out for you the foundations about price, because in the childcare industry, so many of you are having an increasingly tough time dealing with feeling like you're being beaten down about price. And so we're going to talk about that and what are the underlying things that, that determine price in a market. We're going to talk about myths and misconceptions about price. And then we're going to dive into how to attract more paying clients for those of you who are competing with free or have a high level of subsidy in your program. It's a business best practice to try to attract more private payers so that you're less dependent on your state. And so that's what I teach. So we're going to dive into that today. We're going to provide you with 4 best practices to maximize revenue and cash flow. And then we're going to give you a very clear roadmap on takeaway from this. What are you going to go do? Right? So I really want you, every time I do a workshop or a training, I want you to be very clear on your action steps and what you're going to go do in the next 30 to 60 days differently than you're currently doing. And then finally, I'm going to offer you an opportunity at the end of this webinar to work with me one-on-one. I'm going to ask you to make a decision, yes or no, in whether you want to go to the next step with me and get some one-on-one coaching with me. So we'll talk about that as well. And we're also, as I mentioned, going to hear live from some folks at Procare. All right, I'm just doing a check on my panel here. And looks like everything is good. So let's rock and roll. We have a lot to cover. And if we have time, as mentioned, I would love to be able to answer the questions in the question box. So if going along you do have a question, a burning question, go ahead and type it in the question box, and I'll get to as many of those as I can at the end if time allows. So for those of you who don't know me, I am America's leading expert on childcare business success, primarily relating to marketing and filling up your program with ideal clients, paying clients, clients that you want to serve and who get your value. We're going to be talking about that today. I'm the founder of the Childcare Success Academy, which over 225 childcare owners and owner directors and startups are in and are in a mentoring program with me at some level. I've personally coached over 137 of you who have increased their enrollment dramatically in 6 months or less. So what I'm really trying to do is operationally help you get out of survive mode and into thrive so that you can reinvest your newfound cash flow into the business and feel more abundant and help your staff feel more appreciated. I'm a national speaker. I also host a getting to be very large conference, the Childcare Success Summit. This year it's going to be in Las Vegas. I hope you'll come and join us at the end of October. And it's 3 days of pure business and marketing and operational and mindset training, stuff that no one else in the industry is giving you, focused specifically on early childhood business best practices. So I hope you'll come join us at that. The author of the Ultimate Childcare Marketing Guide, and that's in the Red Leaf catalog, and it's a 5-star book on Amazon. So if you haven't picked that up, I highly recommend that you do so, because it'll give you a clear roadmap for how to grow your enrollment long term, and lots of great ideas. A little bit about me real quick. I'd just like to give the kind of how did I get into this industry backstory, if you will. Allison was my first client. My children were going to her preschool in Hudson, Ohio. I now live out in Colorado, but at the time, back in 2008, 2009, my kids there, as you see on the left, Owen and Maeve, were in Allison's preschool, and she was really struggling in 2008, 2009, like many of you, with her enrollment. She had declined by about half and needed to quickly try to grow her enrollment back to its levels. And so we helped her get close to full. We helped her grow by about 50 children in about 11 months. And there she is with her granddaughters, and she and her husband own the school. I was able to take that system that I helped develop with Allison in 2009, which was successful, and basically brought it out to the industry. And so hundreds of you are using the strategies that I teach. You guys have been really struggling with how to market effectively. No one's really kind of shown you the roadmap of what works. And since I was a mom and a customer of a child care program, and I had studied the marketing and the processes of all different kinds of child care settings. My kids were in a Montessori, they were in a home daycare, family daycare, they were in a large chain center, and then they were in with Allison and her husband Kent, so a smaller private owned, husband and wife team. I was able to really study and compare and contrast and come up with strategies that work. So all these folks have used what I teach, and they've all increased their enrollment, some of them quite dramatically. And I just want to share just a few stories with you real quick. Because the reason I show these is because, first of all, it helps me build credibility with you that I know what I'm talking about, but mostly it helps give you hope that other people all across the country, just like you, in all different kinds of programs, have used what I teach. When you apply it and implement it, you have to take action on it, right? You can't just sit there and say, yeah, that's a good idea. So Alita achieved a 49% increase in enrollment in 3 months. And she went from 49 kids, and a year later she was at 103. Okay, so she implemented what I taught her. Jerry and Jane have 4 large centers outside of Hartford and increased their enrollment by over 150 children, which was a substantial increase in revenue and profit. And Jerry was a professional and used to be an actuary and a high-end executive, and was able to really bring him some great knowledge that he wasn't even kind of aware of in the marketing space. So that was great, and I'm still working with all these folks, by the way. These are all Success Academy members now, and I'm just excited to, not only do I continue to help new people, but my biggest thing is, I really want to continue working with people long term and bring you new strategies all along the way. Jennifer Connor is one of my more recent clients. She's in Louisiana, and last October had 30 children enrolled, or 2 Octobers ago. And by May of 2013 had 90 children and a waiting list, and tripled her enrollment. So just thrilled to show you that no matter what part of the country you're in, from Maine to California, and no matter what kind of program, whether it's affluent or inner city, these are the business best practices that will work for you, okay? Let's talk about price. So I'm going to just check in one more time on my panel, make sure everything's going good here. Looks like everybody can hear me fine, so that's great. Okay. So what really determines price? Let's think about this for a second. I think that we get all caught up in getting angry about programs around down the street that cut their price and undercut us, and we have elementary schools who are offering preschool for free and after school for free. It's extremely hard to compete in today's environment. And so what is the relationship? what determines price? So it's really a function of value, guys. It's really a function of perceived value and also communicated value. So I've been doing some one-on-ones with folks over the last couple days, and every single person that I'm talking to who's an owner of a program is not doing an effective job of communicating their value, and it's specifically communicating their unique value. So the companies that thrive and grow are able to say in a certain marketplace, this is how I'm different, and this is the value that I deliver to children and families every day. And because child care center owners have come up through the ranks of education traditionally and have not had marketing and sales training, they don't understand how to effectively communicate their value. They may say, when I ask them what makes them different and special, they say quality of care. I just talked about this with an owner earlier this morning. Quality of care. Well, how do you make that tangible to parents? What does that mean? How can you demonstrate that? You can't just say quality of care, because guess what? Everyone else is saying it too, which gets to the second point. Price is a function of commoditization. What are commodity products? When you go to the grocery store, what do you see that's a commodity? You see things like toothpaste, like sugar and salt and spices. Things that are commodities at the grocery store that, you know, Crest and Colgate, it's a commodity, but they're trying to do a bang-up job of marketing, and they're still spending a lot of money, even though toothpaste is a commodity. So, you know, that's where branding comes in, and that's a kind of a different discussion. The point I'm trying to make here is that because childcare has become increasingly commoditized, it's becoming more difficult for you to compete. Because in some markets and with some parents, they don't really want to pay for higher quality. They just want somebody to keep their child safe and to know that they're being cared for, so they don't have to stress about it. Okay, but I'm going to teach you a way to attract parents in a different way. Okay, you do not need to be a victim of parents just thinking, I just need a babysitter. Okay, but commoditization is a problem, and I'll tell you a little bit more about why here in a minute. Think about the different things that you buy. Okay, this is a great classic example, a pound of Godiva versus a pound of Hershey's. Have you thought about the difference in price based on the value or the perceived value? Because really, how much more tasty is a piece of Godiva than a piece of a Hershey nugget, really? Is it 2 times more tasty, 3 times more tasty? The marketing emphasis has been put in the perceived value. Look at the packaging. Think about how your child care center is being packaged. How are you effectively communicating the value? And I'm going to give you some exact strategies for how to fix your message. It's really about your marketing message, and it's also, of course, about the product. So what do you think the difference is here in terms of price? So here's what it is. A pound of Godiva is approximately $48, and a pound of Hershey's is approximately $6. Almost a 10x difference. So, you know, this is a great way to think about price, is thinking about the perceived value of your child care center or the early childhood experience. How are you impacting children's lives? How are you impacting families' lives? What are the results that children are taking away from your school after they graduate? Are they more confident? Do they have better self-esteem? Are they more prepared for a better experience in kindergarten and beyond? Are they lifelong learners? Are they healthy and wellness focused because you've fed them good food and you exercised them? So specific results, I'm looking for results here, you know, and we don't think about that when we're thinking about our marketing. We just kind of look down the street and see what the other child care centers are doing, and we kind of copy that, right? So I want to pull you away from that copycat mindset. That's commoditization thinking. Okay? And we could go through many, many examples of the Hershey versus Godiva example. I mean, Kia versus Lexus, and on and on. The increased commoditization of childcare has made it harder for you to charge what you're worth. And the increased presence of free programs has made it more challenging. The commoditization part, listen, this is our fault as an industry. I'll never forget, I had one owner of 4 schools come up to me and say, it's really about price and location, and if you try to tell me that it's different, I'm not going to believe you. And that was what I call stinking thinking. Listen, guys, it's not really about price and location. I know plenty of examples of moms who have driven past 3 child care centers and driven 2 miles out of their way because they chose a center that they thought would benefit their child, and they didn't feel comfortable with the others. It's not just about location. This is the future of children that we're talking about. Okay, so you really need to focus on your differences. How do you do what you do differently? And when tangible benefits to the child, and increased confidence and self-esteem and lifelong learning and kindergarten preparation and higher test scores are all great benefits. I mean, you know, big, huge smiles on the children's faces at the end of the day is a great benefit. So they're all things that you can put in your marketing. Longevity of your center in the market. Mother-daughter team. Multiple generations of care. Teachers who used to be children in the center and now they're a teacher there. Those are all things that you can pull out in your marketing that are demonstrable, tangible benefits. And there's a lot more I'm going to share with you. But at the end of the day, if you are feeling like you can't charge the rate that you are worth, you need to look at your value. You need to look at how am I communicating my value. And am I really doing a high-value job? Am I giving 100% satisfaction? Okay. So now let's dive into myths and misconceptions about price, now that we've talked about the price-value relationship. This is a known statistic, and I don't know what study it's from, but only 10 or 15% of any given market chooses based on price alone. It's our job to give them the value proposition or the value messaging so that we can allow them to not choose based on price. If no other comparison is given, then that's what moms resort to. They don't know. They don't know that because you have teacher longevity, you pay your teachers more and therefore your rates are slightly higher. They don't understand that. So it's our job to communicate, and maybe you don't need to go into the depths of all that detail with parents, but certainly you can tell that story, okay? And teacher longevity is a huge issue. I mean, if you have great tenure and longevity at your school, that means low staff turnover, happy staff equals happy kids equals happy parents. So that's a story that needs to be told. If everybody purchased based on price alone, we'd only be shopping at Walmart, we'd only be driving Kias, and we would only be eating at McDonald's, guys. When parents don't want to spend on child care, that's our job, is that we have to demonstrate to them that this is a very important decision for the future of your child. There is no more important decision than this. In some cases, you might even have to make them a little bit guilty for wanting to commoditize this decision. Okay? So we have to do a better job. Myth number 2, it's impossible to compete with free. I know many schools, and I know many other kinds of child-focused businesses who compete with free all day long and are doing very well. This, again, gets back to your unique value. Compared to the free after-school program at the elementary school, what do you offer that's better and different? We offer a homework club. We offer, and children in our school tend to get better grades or perform better because they're more supported with healthy meals and snacks, which the free program does not give. train teachers that help them with their homework and give them support and guidance and help them meet their educational goals, which the public school does not give. Outside time and an abundance of nature, and really amazing field trips that expand their mind. We go to the Science and Industry Museum, whatever it is, which the public school does not give. So you need to, I think sometimes we're afraid to promote, we're afraid to really sing our own praises because we feel like that's too salesy. And I know some of you out there are really shaking your head right now like, yes, that is me. Don't be afraid to promote. Don't be afraid to talk about your value. Myth number 3, oh, we got a poll time. So I got a poll that goes with that competing with free idea. Let me bring up my poll. We got 2 polls in here, which their polls are really fun. So what I want you to do, we're going to launch the poll. The poll is open. You should be able to see that it says, do you currently compete with a free child care program, either after school or any kind of free program of some type in your marketplace? Go ahead and answer that, yes, no, or not sure, and we'll provide you with the results in seconds. I love polls. They're super fun. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close down the poll in 3, 2, 1. And I'm closing the poll, and then I'm hoping that you guys can see the results. Share. Oh, here we go. Sharing the poll results. So 55% of you currently compete with some type of free child care program in your market. That's massively huge. 38% do not, and 7% aren't completely sure. All right, so more than half of you are dealing with this struggle. There is a couple really good strategies for, I'm going to give you, continuing to try to work on your message and how you present your school and what you do that will help you more effectively compete with free. So we'll get to that. All right, myth number 3. People will leave me if I raise my rates. I've been doing kind of an informal study of this across all my clients. And, I recommend a best practice that we're going to talk about with cash flow management is annual rate increases. So what I want you to do is ask yourself, when was the last time I raised my rates? If it was more than 12 months ago, you need to put that on your calendar to implement ASAP. I recommend that you do annual rate increases, and this is what happens when you do, and when you do it right. So I'm going to talk you through quickly towards later on in the webinar about the process to go through to raise your rates in order to make it be accepted in a more positive way from parents. But you've got to keep up with at least the cost of inflation, guys. You're not running a charity. Even if you're a nonprofit, you need to show that you are covering your costs and you're running a successful program. You need to do rate increases every year. And even if you haven't been doing them since the downfall of the economy in 2009 and you still have to get back up to it, and you know you do, but you've just been dreading it, start with a 2% or a 3% across the board cost of living increase. I guarantee you that you may have 1 or 2 people who might leave you, but listen, do you really want those people in your program anyway if they're going to leave you for that? Come on. Okay? So you want to focus on your yummiest, best clients, your ideal clients, and we want to attract more of them. So I'm going to take you through a process here in a little bit about how to identify them and attract more of them. You don't need people who aren't going to pay their bill and who don't value you. let them go. Let those children go. I know it's sad, but you need to focus on being a successful, profitable business so you can pay your staff what they're worth and reinvest back into the program. Okay? So by and large, when people raise their rates, they have a few grumpy people, one or two grumpy people, and don't lose anybody. And again, I told you, I've been doing this with a lot of programs in a lot of different kinds of markets, and this is a myth. This is a mindset myth that you have got to change in your mindset. Okay? So raise your rates, do a 3% increase, and I will be very surprised if more than one person leaves. Just some quick common fears and mindset limiters, because price is really a lot of times it's a function of how we grew up. It's a function of your parents telling you, you know, business owners are greedy, people who raise their rates are greedy, wealthy people are not nice or greedy. We hear all about the 1%, and those people are vilified in our country. When the majority of them are giving back billions of people. I mean, the Gates Foundation has basically turned third world countries around. So we don't need to be anti-wealth and abundance. Okay? We need to be focusing on best business practices and deal with the mindset issues that we have around price and abundance. So I want you to check in with yourself on these comments and see, you know, am I being held back by stinking thinking? Okay? My business is different, my program is different, it might work for them, but not for me. If you're thinking that right now, then you need to work on that because it's not different. Okay? It's not different. So let's now talk about how to attract more high-paying clients, and then we're going to get into how to maximize your cash flow and revenue. All right, and I'm just doing a little time check here. Sip of water. Okay. The first thing that most of you are not doing, well, and this also gets to, I'm too busy running my program to focus on my marketing. You've got to find a way to pull yourself, if you're the owner acting as the director, or even if you're the owner, and you're fighting fires, you've got to find a way to pull yourself out of the program, at least for a few hours a week, and focus on your marketing. You need to have a better understanding of your market dynamics. I know this because I'm working with so many of you that just you haven't even thought about doing this. This is kind of like a what you know and then what you don't know, and this is like a what you don't know that you don't know. It's like, oh, I never even thought about that. You've got to know where you stand among your competition in terms of price and value. In order for you to really be clear about what you offer that's different and how you do what you do that's different from the other centers or programs that you compete with, you've got to do an in-depth study. I recommend mystery shopping them, at least calling, looking at their websites, getting their marketing materials, and understanding what they offer. One's a Montessori, one's a Reggio Emilia, one is a pure play-based. And that's just in how they teach. But I'm also talking about what are the features, what are the wow factors in their school that when people go and tour them, that all that stuff adds value to the value proposition of your prospect in their mind. Okay? So you need to understand who your biggest competitors are and what they offer in terms of rate and value so that you can pull yourself out of that and stand apart. You need to understand who your ideal clients are and where you're drawing them from. This is the biggest first step to attracting more private pay or more ideal clients. is you have to look at who you're currently attracting that you would consider that you want to attract more of, or what I would call like your A clients, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You also need to know your school's unique benefits, okay? Especially when I just gave you examples of those earlier when I talked about things that you do that the free programs don't do, like the homework club, or extended hours, or transportation, or meals, and longevity of teachers, etc. Degreed teachers. Okay? So you need to understand your market better. I really want you to do a competitive analysis every 6 months. I want you to fully really understand and have clarity about how you compare, how do your rates compare, how are you different, what is your unique value, and what can you do to add more competitive value or more unique value to your program. So recently, and I showed you earlier the picture of Jerry and Jane from Hartford, and they are at the top of their market. They are the Godiva, and they're continuing, because they are now even more and more and more successful and able to pay their teachers more and reinvest in their program. They just added some unique value, which is that they invested in a special system called a Zono, which is a non-bleach sanitation closet, and you can put anything in there. You can put crayons in there. Not cheap, but they just added that. Now they have more competitive differentiation. So the better that you get at this, the more and more and more that you add to your program and reinvest, if you're smart. Maybe you decide that you're going to be really focused on health and wellness, and you add organic, fresh fruits and vegetables to your program. So you kind of need to decide where you want to focus. Maybe you want to focus on multilingual. So you are the language place, if this matches your market. You teach Spanish and English and French. And so parents who care about that are naturally drawn to you. Not everybody, but it's very clear. So you're able to attract your ideal clients better, okay? So what I want to do is just take you through a quick exercise of identifying currently your best existing clients, your best, yummiest families who pay on time, they refer. So let's make a list. So really what I want you to do is I want you to print out your roster. Hopefully you're using Procare software. You print out your roster out of Procare. And maybe you look at past clients too. Maybe you look at everybody who was enrolled with you for the last 2 years. And you highlight the ones that are your A and B clients, or just your A clients, people that love you and you love them. They appreciate you. They refer others. They offer testimonials. They sing your praises to the world. They can afford you. They pay on time. They're easy to do business with. Okay? If you're trying to attract more private pay, and only 5% of your clientele is private pay, those are the families I want you to make a list of. Write them down. And then we're going to do a little exercise. So you can do this later, but just make the steps are print out your roster and then highlight your A and B clients. Make a pile of the names. And then you're going to do a study of them. You're going to figure out and get more clarity about where they live or where they work, depending on how you draw people. If you're next to a business park, you're going to be looking more at where they work. What type of work do they do? Are they, a lot of them, hospital employees, for example? Why did they choose you? So when you do your parent surveys, which hopefully you're doing, what is the number one thing that they love about you most? And for many, it's going to be the relationship with the teachers. But that's not the original reason why they chose you, because they didn't have a relationship with Miss Jenny at that point. Okay? So And for some of it, some people it's going to be location, I know, but not, probably at least 70 or 80% it's not going to necessarily be location. That could be an added factor, is just convenience. Okay, why did they choose you? Why do they stay? So, but specifically, you really want to be clear on where they live. So you want to get your, what I call your best neighborhoods. And I would even get some push pins, get out your local map, and map it out. And this is laid out in my book in the Map It Out exercise. And so most of you are not doing this. You don't really have clarity on who your best customers are. When you know where they work and where they live, you can automatically target your marketing to go and attract more of them. You can target those neighborhoods with mailings, with all sorts of good stuff. You can target the businesses with preferred partner business programs and some kind of a tuition discount or a benefit so they can add it to their employer benefit list. Okay, hope this is making sense. So here's just some real-world examples I just wanted to share with you. Prerna from Texas, I was working with her, and she discovered that she had dual-income Spanish families. Nice paying families were coming and being referred by this one Spanish relocation specialist who was in her market. And so I was like, well, are you calling her up? Are you sending her gifts? Are you making a relationship with this specialist? Because you really want to, you know, reach out and network with and send gifts and thank you notes. I mean, even just handwritten thank you notes, but a small gift would be great too. Take her some cookies. Take her a Starbucks card, whatever she likes. Okay, it's worth it to you in spades to develop these relationships with people who are referring you in the community. Tom and Mary Jo have a large Indian contingent of families, and so we created a whole program around that because the Indian population in Ohio was extremely strong, and they refer each other all the time. But just kind of, you know, reaching out to those folks and making a program. Don't just let it happen and not reward anybody. And then Jerry and Jane actually were the ones that gave me the idea about using current parents that work at the hospital, for example. Ask them to take your materials into their HR department. Use them as an ambassador. They're currently enrolled in your program. You could let them know that if we can get your employer, the hospital, to add us to add this program into their employee benefit list, everybody gets 5% off tuition. So the current parent is highly motivated to take your message into their HR department, which is going to be much easier than you trying to call the HR department. Okay? So that's the strategy for, in particular for private pay, is to create some kind of a program, create a preferred employer program, and get people who are current private pays that love you to take that message into their HR people and become an employee benefit on that list of benefits. That's going to drive more people from that hospital to your program, I guarantee it. And then what other employers are near you that you're not really pulling people from? Okay? I mean, I know somebody that did this with Applebee's, as crazy as that sounds. They were open second shift, and the restaurant workers, the moms that were working as waitresses and staff at Applebee's needed care. And so they had a whole program. The word of mouth with all the Applebee's from that particular restaurant was, go to ABC Childcare. That's not the name of it, but, you know. So she was pulling, half of her evening families were all Applebee's people, you know. So you just kind of got to get more strategic about what you're doing. Finally, we talked about how are you different. This needs to be a really important part of your message. The 3 or 4 ways we're different from most other programs in town. Can you identify that in a way that is meaningful to parents? It's not just quality of care. It needs to be more tangible. So let me give you some examples. I know you guys are going to want this slide. I haven't talked to the Procare guys about how to provide these slides in a PDF pack, but maybe on their blog, we're recording this webinar, so maybe along with the recording we can put the slides. So low ratios, if you have lower ratios than most, you need to talk about that, because that's important to a large segment of moms. Same thing with smaller class sizes. So it doesn't feel as chaotic in the center because your class sizes are smaller. It feels more calm and more like learning, individualized learning is happening. You have the largest playground with all the bells and whistles. You have an indoor playground. You have fresh fruits and veggies. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but these are the kinds of tangible value points that will support price. Okay? There's one other really important thing in your message. This is just that demonstrates how you can translate features into benefits. The other thing that I'm hearing that is working for people that do it is testimonials. You got to have them on your website, preferably video testimonials, but here's an example of a flyer that was created that shows a before and after story, and the story is from the dad. And it's excellent. I mean, this is where I say, yeah, quality of care, but this is a tangible demonstration of the learning experience that took place. Because she did great, now she's super confident and doing fantastic at Columbus Academy, which is a very high-end prep school. Okay? Testimonials work because they're a credible indicator of your value from the mouths of other parents, not from you. So they help support price. They help support value. And so when you hang these on your wall and you put them, you know, in your marketing materials, and you put them on your website, and you put them in your prospect packet, and you put them on your answering machine of your center, etc., they help support price. And I just heard about that this morning from an owner in a non-affluent area who did this, and it helped her support price, and she's 95% subsidy, guys. So this can work for any kind of market. Because she did this, she put them on her wall, and she noticed an immediate difference in her success of attracting new clientele and more private paying clients. And it also is great because it also is a constant reminder, if you have these on the wall of your program, it's a constant reminder to your teachers of what a good job you do. Okay? And they also help support when you're going to increase the tuition, which I hope you're doing. This just demonstrates how to do a credible testimonial. It needs to be detailed. It's okay if it's lengthy. Include a picture of the parents and include their full name and the pictures of their kids. That adds credibility to, so testimonial B is obviously way more credible and powerful and effective than testimonial A. All right. So that was a 15-minute, very fast tutorial on how to attract more ideal clients. And I hope that you wrote down 2 or 3 really good nuggets from that, because when you take action on those, you're going to see a difference. You're going to see some results. Now let's dig into specific cash flow best practices, revenue and cash flow. So I've got 4 things for you, okay? So the first one is to accept as many forms of payment as you can, as makes sense. Take the money, okay? Don't create obstacles in your business for how people can pay you. Well, I don't want to take credit cards. I don't want to pay the fee. Well, I think that's silly. I think that you should be able to take as many forms of payment as makes sense for you, but don't limit it. Okay? probably with the exception of cash, although I know people that take cash. And again, it depends on your market. But just maybe expand your thinking on this a little bit, okay? Have a consistent, clear policy and enforce late fees. So I have a client, I don't know if they're on the line with me right now, but I have a client who I just visited last week, name will not be named, who has $30,000 in collections due him. One school. And this is only because they have not enforced their policy and they have not enforced late fees because they are being what I call softies. People will look for the vendors they do business with, and they will look for the softies because if they're trying to manage their cash flow at home, they're going to look for the person who they think they can get by with, and they're not going to pay that person. I don't want that person to be you. So you need to be stronger. I know it's hard to say we're not going to accept your child. It's extremely difficult. And if it's not your ability to do that, then you need to hire a hired gun to do it. But somebody's got to enforce those late fees. Now, we're going to talk with the Procare folks in a minute. I've got John and Phil on the line, and we're going to talk about how Procare can help you do this. They have an automated way of tracking and helping you enforce those late fees. But guys, you've got to have a consistent, clear policy. I would even take it to the point where I would have my policy laid out as a separate, it can be in your parent handbook, but I think it also needs to be a separate piece of paper that is initialed by the parent upon enrollment, if you have a problem with this. Some of you don't. Make sure they fully understand the policy and that it will be enforced. You're not being a bad guy. You're just doing business. Okay? So tuition is due on Wednesday for the following week. You have a 3-day grace period. If it is not received by Monday, a late fee of $5 a day will be assessed. If you do not fully pay your bill by the following Monday, you will not be allowed to enter the premises and we will take away your code. Or you need to make arrangements to start catching up on your late bill with, consistent payment, something. But it needs to be consistent, clear, and enforced. We talked about this. Raise your rates every year without fail. Okay? You need to be doing this. Cost of living increases. You want to provide raises to your teachers. This is going to enable you to do that. So at a minimum, you should be doing 2 to 3% annually. On years when you add a lot of stuff, maybe you add a bunch of improvements to quality of service. Maybe you improve the playground, you add fresh fruits and veggies and organic, you increase your capabilities, you can charge more. And so the process that I recommend that you do for this is that you write a letter. And in your letter, and it's not a lengthy letter, it's a half page to a page, you lay out and explain. Dear parent, as you know, we have annual tuition increases in September every year. The new tuition is X, which will be effective on X date. We are thrilled to communicate to you that we've added a lot of value and benefits for your child in our program over the last 6 months, and also we've got some great stuff coming up over the next 6 months. And here's the list. Boom, 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 bullet point. We continue to strive to work to be the best school in our community. Again, we want to be the Godiva of our market. And we so appreciate your continued business, and we love having your family be an extension of our family. Hugs and kisses, Mr. Smith. So that's how the letter goes, okay? Maybe not the hugs and kisses part. You want to communicate that. You can give it to every parent. You can e-blast it to every parent. You want to make sure that everybody knows about it. But I think mailing it home is the best thing. If you want to include it with something that softens the blow, you could include it with, I'm trying to think of what you could put in there with it. I mean, certainly you could put teacher testimonials in there with it. You could include, here's what teachers are saying about working at the school. And some teachers chime in about how much they love teaching the kids, something like that. Okay, so you're reinforcing the value along with the message of raising the rates. Okay, and that's how you do it. You communicate it, you give them plenty of notice, and then you just do it because it's business. It's not a surprise, though. Finally, the best practice with today's technology, we are able to automate tuition payments. This will help your cash flow perhaps more than any of the other things. And it also reduces your time spent in collection and dealing with all of these different moving parts. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to have, well, first we're going to do a quick poll, and then we're going to bring John and Phil on from Procare, and I want to just ask them some questions about how Procare supports these best practices. So let's do a poll. What I want to know is, do you currently use an automated tuition collection process or system? Yes or no? Like Procare's Tuition Express would be an example, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And a lot of you folks are Procare folks, so hopefully many of you are already using it. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, so everybody go ahead and get your vote in 3, 2, 1. So I've closed the poll, and now I'm going to share it. So 58% of you on this webinar use some kind of automated tuition collection, and 42% do not. So that's good. That's actually higher than I would have expected. I would have maybe thought it would be 40-60 the other way. So this is great. All right. So, of course, being that I am partnered with Procare and just think that they're really the best childcare management software out there, let's spend a couple minutes with John and Phil, and I just want to quickly ask them some questions. And guys, I don't know if you're unmuted. It looks like Phil is muted. John, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Great. And Phil, are you there?
I'm here as well, yes.
Excellent. Guys, thanks so much for allowing me to come on and do this webinar about such an important topic, which is price and rates. I want to know, we just outlined 4 best practices, and as you and I have discussed before, Procare really helps with 3 of these best practices, the automated tuition, which is supported by Tuition Express. You help with tuition increases because you help systemize that process to do annual increases, and you help with tracking late payments. So let's talk first about Tuition Express. Tell us a little bit about how it works for people that aren't familiar with Tuition Express. Just give us a quick overview.
Sure, great, Chris, and thanks again for letting us sit in. This is the first time I've had a chance to sit in or even participate in one of your webinars, and I think that the content that you're providing is spot on. We have a lot of similar conversations with Tuition Express clients every day, and what we find is so many who get into our industry don't do it because they want to know how to be good business people, or don't do it because they are already good business people. And Typically it's because they like working with kids. And what's interesting is that the business side of things and sometimes even the parent side of things gets in the way of what they actually intended to do here.
Yep.
Tuition Express, and many of you on this webinar may recognize my voice if you're already using Procare and Tuition Express, but in a nutshell, it's an integrated payment processing system that works with Procare and Procare alone. It allows you to process electronic payments from your parents either through credit cards or directly through bank account transactions. And what it allows you to do really is take control over your revenue. There are a number of different ways that you can take payments through Tuition Express. We will always suggest that in a perfect scenario, it would be where you ask a parent to provide you with either their bank account information or a credit card, which you then store in Procare. And then you're able to just collect payments from that account yourself. In that example, you now have control over when payments happen. You can do that whether it's from a credit card or a bank account. But in that case, you have real control over revenue. You have the ability also to take online payments and even a point-of-sale type of a card swipe transaction that a parent could possibly initiate themselves through an attendance feature. But we give you kind of a collection of different options. Some give you more control than others, but it really is a way for you to have control over revenue.
That's excellent. And what I've heard from some people who are nervous about doing it, John, is that they're afraid that parents aren't going to want to give either their bank account information for an ACH deduction, or they're not going to want to give a credit card. So do you have experience or examples that you've seen where centers who might be nervous about it, it actually ends up being a positive? I mean, is that a genuine concern, I guess is what I'm saying.
It is. I'll tell you the two basic maybe concerns or pushback items from families would be, one, you nailed, well, I don't want you to have my account information on file. I'd actually say that the probably more common response would be, I really want to have control over when money comes out of my account. I think that's even more common. Mm-hmm. What I can tell you from a security perspective is that once you have the account information saved in Procare, it's no longer stored in your program. It's not in your Procare system. For example, credit card numbers are not saved in your computer. So no one's, if they ever had access to your Procare program somehow, it's impossible for them to recreate credit card numbers. That information is gone and stored in the Tuition Express database, which is at the highest level of payment card industry security standards. So from a security perspective, really the only thing that would be in the hands of a center would be the physical forms that a parent might fill out for you to store on file. And we'll even give you suggestions on how to handle those forms. We suggest that you would destroy any part of a credit card number that may be at risk. So you only really need to keep the last 4 digits of their credit card number on file. The rest of it you can literally destroy from a form that they might fill out for you. So, you know, at that point, you could keep a person's account information sitting on your desk, and no one could do anything with it. You know, if you're taking bank account information from a person, you're not taking anything more from them than they would have provided on a check. So people are writing checks every day to complete strangers, including their routing number and their account number.
Yep.
That's all you're asking them for in the electronic process as well. So you're not at risk, nor are they at risk, really, for fraud or people stealing or theft.
So that's great. Another solution I've heard to counteract this concern is that I've had an owner tell me, well, then we recommend that they open another side checking account, and they just put enough in there to cover tuition. They just do a quick transfer, and they give us that information. So the only thing that's in there is tuition, and that's the only information that we have.
Their exposure to monies that the center may draft from their account.
Right, which I think is a great idea.
And I don't know that happens very often, so I wouldn't think that needs to be something that you really stress to parents.
No.
This is something that parents receive pretty well. And in fact, we at Tuition Express will even, and do on a daily basis, give you suggestions on how to communicate this stuff to families. You know, how you put it into terms and perspective that families receive very well, where you do not have an awkward conversation with parents about how you do your billing. You make it very clear what your options are, and
Right.
you're allowing parents to select of the options you have available. You always can be flexible. You can always take checks and cash payments as well, which, Kris kind of alluded to the fact that many businesses don't really want cash these days, which sounds funny, but it's reality. There's a little more risk involved with cash being on premises, or, it can walk away, or it can get misplaced. So there are, we're trending toward more electronic payment options today.
Yeah. So you can offer an incentive, which would be they don't have a fee if they do Tuition Express, but there's an additional processing fee if they bring check or money order. So that's another
Absolutely
way to
right.
do it. So lots of options there, and Procare is giving you guys the way to message it and the way to talk about it to parents to make it easy. Let's talk a little bit about tuition increases. How do you guys help systemize an annual tuition increase?
Sure. So this is Phil. I'll take that question, Kris. It's really pretty easy. There is one screen in Procare where you establish all the different rates for your programs, and then each year you can simply go in and update those rates. And then you have two choices, which is kind of cool. You can say that I'm going to update everybody's rate at once with like one click of the mouse, or you can say, you know what, I don't want to do that. I'm going to grandfather in some of the existing families and only have the rate increase for newer families. Now, that might not necessarily be something you recommend, but you do have that option. So it's a pretty easy thing to do. Really, you type in the rates and click the update button. Probably takes you less than 5 minutes.
Awesome. I love that. And then finally, tell us a little bit about how you help track late payments.
Sure. One of the things Procare has is a tool that we call the late payment calculator. And so the way that works is you establish a policy like Kris is recommending. It's got to be due by such and such a day. And if I don't have it, you have a 3-day grace period or whatever. And then once that grace period is over, you can use this little tool to say, show me all the families who have a balance greater than whatever amount you want. It could just be anything $1 or more, or it could say maybe you only apply it to people whose balance is over 50 or whatever amount you decide. And then you can say, I want to charge them a flat fee, like maybe it's $5 or $10 or $15 or whatever your late fee might be. Or you could make it a percentage of their balance, or whichever is more. So you could say something like charge 3% of their balance or $10, whichever is more. And it's really just a matter of putting in the percentage, putting the amount, and clicking Start.
Cool. Sounds easy. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. I'm going to try to continue on the webinar and maybe have a little bit of Q&A at the end here. I know that we're just over the hour mark. Is there anything else that you really wanted to tell the audience that you felt was really urgent regarding this topic?
Yeah, Kris, if I could just add, this is John again. You had talked about the importance of doing annual fee increases or tuition increases. We talk every day about, what do you do about processing fees? Because for many who are reluctant to get into accepting credit card payments, it's because they don't want to have to absorb those fees. Now, keep in mind, not everybody's going to choose a credit card if you offer that as an option. Many will, and for different reasons. Some are motivated because they want their reward points or air miles or whatever it is. Some use credit cards today because that's just how they pay their bills every month, and then they might pay off their balance later. But there's a different kind of motivation today to use plastic.
Yep.
We suggest that businesses treat processing fees like any other business expense. This is not unlike your payroll expense or your mortgage expense. Those things are all tied into your tuition. So should your processing fees be. And as you're considering a 2% or 3% annual tuition increase, if you're new to electronic processing, then that is, I think, considered to be part of that tuition increase. And it's just a nominal amount when you spread it out across the board. Consider 1% of your tuition increase would be factoring in all of your processing fees. So for many, I think that's an important thing to kind of delineate when looking at, what do we do about fees? Well, they're really just part of your tuition, and it's an invisible business expense that you're passing along to families the same as you would with any other, expenses that you're passing along.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree. And again, getting back to the key being when you demonstrate and show value and the way that you're transforming children's lives and their learning, then you're able to charge and do increases fairly effortlessly. But if you're not doing a good job on that, then people are going to maybe whine and complain a little bit more, or you're going to feel more nervous about rolling these things into your tuition. But I think it's a great point, John, and I think that that's a great best practice. So thank you so much for pointing that out, and thanks Phil and John for taking the time to help us understand better about how Procare supports cash flow and tuition payments.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Great. All right, so takeaways. I want you guys to be the Godiva of your market. I want you to add value that's relevant to your market, to your customers, and communicate it clearly. We talked about adding competitive differentiation, adding more value, adding new bells and whistles, if you will, to your program to compete. You could go to your parents, you could go to your A and B list parents and say, I'm thinking about adding these features and benefits and investing in the program with these different things. We're going to maybe add fingerprint security, or we're going to add something in the playground, or we're going to add something related to our meals or transportation. Ask your customers. Get more voice of the customer if you need help figuring out what to add, what's relevant to them. Okay? Take a parent survey. Check your mindset about price. Are you in victim mode? Are you saying, I can't compete with free? I can't do, rate increases. I blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's typically a mindset shift that needs to occur. Are you doing that stinking thinking? Collect the money owed and enforce your policy. Don't be a softie. Okay? You're not running a charity, guys, for most of you, unless, I don't know. But this is a business, okay? And we're focusing on the business side of childcare. So this is going to enable you to serve more parents and families in a bigger way, serve more children in a bigger way, help impact children's lives in a bigger way, make your staff happier, and also be able to be thriving so that you're in an abundant place in your cash flow personally, okay? Consider automated payments. Consider doing Tuition Express if you're not currently doing it. So from there and from all of the little action items and golden nuggets that you got over the last hour, I want you to write down or circle 2 things that you commit to doing in the next 30 days. This is your action plan. I try to keep it super simple. I don't want to overwhelm you. You're already probably feeling somewhat overwhelmed trying to run your business. So I'm trying to distill it down, give you clarity and focus so that you can have success. So 2 actions that you commit to taking action on in the next 30 days that you got out of this webinar today that will make things better for your program. I want you to join these folks and the 100+ others and be my next success stories.